Let's go and look at the Arnold material. I'm going to close this down. I'm going to move over and we will take a look at this sphere. So right now I just have the standard surface material applied through Arnold. Same thing, we have a clear coat and then we have our base material. The clear coat gives you a bit of shininess above what your base material is doing. And again, we'll take a look at this in later tutorials, not right now. So we have our base coat and we have our base color, very similar to the last material we looked at. And this is, again, the same. So if I bring this up to 1, we're getting 100% contribution. If we bring this down, we're getting 0%. Now we're using an Arnold material, so we do need to put this into a preview. I'm at 0.9. When we're at 0, we have a black. When we're at 1, we'll get 100% contribution from this color. We have a roughness for the color, and again, we'll look at the more advanced settings shortly. Here's our specular. We have a roughness for our specular, and we have a white highlight in our specular right now, and I can bring that down. Let's see if we can get it down pretty low. So it vanishes. Now this feels a little bit, let's zoom in closer, feels a little bit more like a rubber ball. Hit the wrong button there. Just a little bit better angle. Feels a little bit more like a rubber ball with the speck all the way down. So I'm going to bring the speck up. It's really hard, and if I increase the roughness, we can bring up that speck and have a nice soft edge around that. So we can make it look like different materials by making adjustments to these things. Again, if we have the metalness and I bring that up to 1, now we have a metallic ball. And the index of refraction for this in 3ds Max, in Arnold, does not have an effect. Other software may, but in here we're without an effect. So if I come in and start playing with this, we're really not going to see any difference if the metalness is at 1. So let's take this metalness back down to 0. And transmission. So this is my transparency. As I bring this up, if I go too high with my IOR, we get metalness. Where do I have my roughness down? Roughness, so I need to make 1.4. There we go. So I have to put in an index of refraction to get this to start looking like a transparent ball or sphere. I'm a little bit through the table. Just want to bring this to world. A little bit. Okay. So if I rotate, you can see we're getting that reflection of the ball through here. Okay, so when we have a glass material, our index of refraction is, so the Fresnel equation is how light enters a surface and then is refracted off of that surface. So it's really how the light is going to bounce inside of the surface as well as it travels through. So that's what gives you your distortion on your glass. So there are lots of different papers on this if you want to look into it. But just be aware that if you have an object and you have no IOR value, then you're going to have a transparent object. This is what gives you that distortion, which allows you to see the glass. So again, if you go to different sites and look for an index of refraction chart, you'll see they give you lots of different numbers. The higher the number, the greater the lens distortion. So for something like water, okay, so we have 1.333 down to 1.318. So different things like air, diamonds. So again, 1. Diamond is 2.418. Okay, we have different numbers here that you can look up and use that to give you a good starting point. All right, now we're going to take a look at HDRIs and setting those up. So right now I have a scene with a cyc, and I'm going to go and put in an environmental material for lighting. So under rendering, you'll see that we have our exposure control, effects, and environment. If you click 8, you'll get to the tab with all of these. Down here we have our exposure control. Again, when we set up our physical camera, we're going to use our physical camera exposure. And I'll just turn that on for now. And in here, I'm going to place a HDRI map. So we looked at HDRI Haven, which is a nice free site to grab some HDRI maps. So I'm going to click, go to bitmap, and I've already put some of these into my images folder. So I'm just going to grab one of these and open it up. You'll see it gives you information on the map, and I'm just going to click OK. And I have use map checked. So let's go and use the active shade, and you'll see how bright this is. So we do have that additional light. Let's zoom back. Now we're seeing the map itself. Make sure I'm in the correct view. So with our cyc, we don't see the environment. But as soon as I start rotating, now we're seeing the environment that the light is being generated from. And if I change the exposure control back to no exposure, we're getting a bit darker. So again, if you're going to use a physical camera, the physical camera exposure control is the one that you want to use for your Arnold lights, because they do not have an Arnold exposure control. And what this allows you to do is you can go in and make different adjustments with the exposure. So as soon as I load this in, you'll see we have down here our exposure, and we're able to make adjustments within the camera itself. And here it is without the map, and I will need to turn it off so I get the proper lighting. And here it is with the map. So we are adding or contributing this light into the scene. When we zoom in and take a nice look at something like the gold material I've applied, we're seeing that map. When I turn it off, now we're getting the black from the environment. So just keep that in mind. The HDRIs are going to give you really nice lighting, and you can get quite a few free ones online. You can also build them yourself, which it does take a bit of time to build.